Hey friends, this is it. This is the very first episode of Mom, I Left the Church. And honestly, I'm a little bit intimidated, but I'm just going to go with it. I'm Leah. I'm a mom, a wife, a cycle breaker, and an ex Mormon, and a very firm believer that healing does not always look like yoga and journaling. It can also look like swearing in your closet and finally telling your story out loud. This podcast is about what happens after you leave the church, after you stop playing small, after you realize that obedience is not peace and perfection is not healing. It's about the messy middle, the space between I don't believe this anymore and who the fuck am I now? I grew up in a very deep Mormon culture. Think modesty lectures at the age of 8, young women lessons that taught me how not to make boys stumble, and dreams of being sealed in the temple to a return missionary with a very strong jawline and even stronger priesthood. Now, fast forward, I'm now an ex Mormon trying to heal my inner child. Leaving the church was not just about doctrine, it was about identity, autonomy, and breaking the cycle. This podcast is a love letter to everyone who has ever sat through a testimony meeting thinking, WTF am I doing here? This is not just about Mormonism. This is about deconstruction, healing, mental health, and figuring out what the hell to believe when you're no longer being told what to think. We will talk about motherhood, boundaries, sex, shame, spirituality, therapy, and probably snacks. I will share stories and give space to voices that deserve to be heard. If you've ever felt like you're too much or not enough, you are in the right place. So, a little about me. I grew up in California, Northern California, and very Mormon. Parents sealed and all. Not just casually Mormon, like culturally Mormon. Early morning seminary, girls' camp, modest is the hottest, and dreams of marrying an RM in the temple kind of Mormon. I was the good girl. I did what I was told. I bore my testimony on cue. I said no to coffee and no to cleavage and yes to callings I absolutely did not want. I fucked up on my Mormon mission, and if you've watched my Instagram videos, you will know all about that. I will eventually talk about that on here. But I just want to say for a long time, being in the Mormon church gave me a sense of safety, identity, belonging until it finally didn't. I started noticing the cracks, the quiet messages about women, the pressure to perform, the shame around sexuality, around questioning, around being too much. I felt myself shrinking. And one day, I realized I just couldn't do it anymore. Leaving the church was the hardest and best thing I've ever done. It cost me relationships. It brought me on grief I didn't even know I was carrying. But it also gave me back my voice, my brain, my body, and now my power. I will definitely get into details more in the future, but I'll say this. I didn't leave the church because I was lazy, offended, or wanted to sin. I left because I finally told myself the truth about what didn't feel right, about what I couldn't reconcile, about what I wasn't willing to pass down to my kid. I did not want to raise another generation in silence, shame, and spiritual gaslighting, because that's exactly what I grew up with. I left because I love myself. I left because I love my kid. I left because staying would have meant abandoning who I really am. This podcast is my way of taking all the stories I was too afraid to say out loud and saying them. It's for the people who are still sitting in the pews wondering if they are the problem. It's for the moms who want to break cycles. It's for anyone who's healing from high demand religion, spiritual trauma, or just a childhood that made them question their worth. We're going to talk about faith, deconstruction. We're going to talk about parenting outside of patriarchy. We're going to talk about therapy, identity, boundaries, shame, spirituality. Some episodes will just be me being raw. Some will be super deep. Some will be absolutely unhinged. All of it. All of me. So if this has resonated with you, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here and that you care to listen and you care to be part of not only my journey, but others who share their stories too. You are not alone in this, and you're not crazy for questioning everything. If you love this episode, hit follow, leave a comment, share it with somebody who might need it because it can really impact their life in ways that may be so small, but in the end, it could be a really big deal for them. Thank you for listening to Mom, I Left the Church. See you next week. And until then, keep asking questions, keep being brave, and keep choosing you.